Mm-hmm. 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 Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to work, cause my boss is a jerk, and I'm not even that paid. I need a change in my life, cause I don't feel alive, and there's nothing that makes me happy. Hold my beer for a minute, I'm about to quit my job, cash in for a ticket. I'm going on a trip and I don't plan to visit. I'm gonna stay there till I feel like I'm winning, and this is just the beginning. I need a big change, help me feel like living. I need a big swing, home runs I'm hitting, and I'll never look back, moving on till I get it all. And we all got dreams, we all want things.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's going on? It's the Super Dave back at it again with the PA Political Revolution podcast. And we are back at it again to give you some more information that's not readily available by the local media, right? We're giving you some of the esoteric stuff, some of the deep down stuff that you can't really get anywhere else, right? When it comes to politics in the city of Port Arthur. And today we have a special guest again, one of our reoccurring guests. His name is Mr. Harold Doucet, former council member Harold Doucet. And the reason why we have Mr. Doucet over here, right, is to give you his opinion and some insight on the something I call the destruction of downtown part 2, right? I want you to, Mr. Duce is going to give us like insights on and give his opinion on if you think it's a good or it's bad or, whatnot. And I want to give that as a part 2 as another different perspective on what's going on downtown. And I think he also has some more information on the raises going on. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself, brother, and go ahead and kind of speak on it, sir?
Yeah. As you said, Harold Doucet here once again to just give information out here that is good for citizens so citizens can be well informed. And as always, the information I give to the citizens is always readily available in either our charter and our code of ordinance. And basically, it's the way our city should be ran. And there seemed to be a lot of uproar, not only with citizens this time, but the council seemed to be at odds with the staff and city manager, with him presenting a document where it was a presentation where a individual had contracted and designed a project. This project included the police station, the fire station, and the animal shelter being built on the grounds that it was formerly St. Mary's Hospital that was donated to the city. I think a lot of the confusion comes from the way the government is being ran here in the city now. And something I spoke to them and I've spoken out constantly about is transparency. The Open Meeting Act clearly addressed transparency and what they can discuss behind closed doors. So a lot of what you see happening is because there's a lot of wheeling and dealing in which people are taking steps and doing things that is not following procedures outlined by the state Open Meeting Act, which governs transparency, and that's why citizens don't know. And I think that's why some of this staff have done things that the council now saying, well, we didn't know. Well, those come from discussions they be having. They talk about things and, actions are taken, but yet now those who not present for those discussions don't know nothing about it. So, they say do this, and next thing you know, we have money being spent on a project, and then someone saying, oh, no, that's not a good idea. We don't want to do this. The problem with that is it's taxpayers' dollars. If people listen to what is being said you're talking about paying $7,000 for that design. And most time when you have a professional service provide you design for projects, they normally charge 10% of what the total cost of the project is, but it's a percentage of what the project is. So you figure you're talking about probably about $700-something million project that they went forward and had designed and presented to council, for council to approve to go ahead and everything. And then all of a sudden, council says, hey, we know about the animal shelter being moved, but no one said about the police station and the fire station. You're moving everything from downtown, and
Right.
you got to redevelop downtown, and downtown have a plan. Well, we have a plan, but we're not exactly executing that plan. We're mostly going by what's being provided for or brought to us for. So, the downtown plan that we had paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for didn't incorporate no buildings downtown being for Motiva. So, right off the bat, you could say, your plan should have been revisited and redone because all this money you put into this plan, have.
Right.
Well, this project they did right here on St. Mary's, if you listen to the council meeting, the mayor and council members was objecting, telling the manager, we didn't know about all this. We're not for moving all of this from downtown. We know about the animal shelter, but we don't know about the fire station, the police station. And the city manager's response, if you listen, says, well, it's just a plan. It's just a plan. And, council don't want it, then, it's just a plan.
Right.
No, it's a plan. You just spent $700 and some thousand of taxpayers' money.
There you go. Yes, sir.
Where is your authorization? Where's the resolution where you discuss this and council says, yes, go ahead on and execute the necessary contract to have this design? That was never done. And then for you to say it's just a plan and if council don't want to do it, we just spent $700 and some thousand.
Right, yes.
So now you're hearing all this, but then you go back to when was any of this discussed? Because if you don't violate the Open Meeting Act, citizens won't have to wait for instances like that to find out what's going wrong or what you're doing, that you're not following ordinance or a charter or laws. You find that out in the open meeting when they have conflicts. But if they would do it properly, anybody that had anything to say about moving all should have been in the form of a presentation to the council. Because when you do a presentation to the council, citizens attending have an opportunity to comment on any item that's going to be taken actions on prior to the vote.
Absolutely.
So one way of not having citizens to comment is when you're discussing things behind closed doors or just in the office, and which is against the Open Meeting Act. And that's why all this is happening. But it's okay to violate the law, but when you start violating the law and costing taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars, then you got a problem. And when I say violating the law, this past week, they voted to give all employees a $300 bonus. As a council member, I've always looked out for employees, and I think that's what council members have to do other than just representing people. You got to make sure that employees of the city are taken care of and treated fair. However, if you want to give employees a raise or employees a bonus, you must discuss it when you're doing your budget. So if you approve it, then you just place it in the budget and the money is there.
Okay, Mr. Doucet, let's hold on that point right quick. I just want to reiterate it. So what you're saying is that it's not necessarily a bad idea just giving employees a raise, but it's how they do it, right? Basically, a council staff can't just go ahead and pull money and do whatever they want to do with the money, but they have to go by and put it in the budget to make sure you have paperwork and documentation, and to make sure all of the citizens' money is properly accounted for and transparent so everybody can see. Is that correct? Go ahead.
Well, not only that, but when they were discussing it, any council member or whoever brought it up, citizens who are at the meeting or viewing the meeting on video, they'll know who brought up this, who spoke for it, if anyone spoke against it, or what and why they are doing it. This is taxpayers' money. This is transparency. But the way it was done is misappropriation of money because they did not put money in the budget to cover giving a bonus. And once again, the council thought, well, it's not all councilmen. It's probably a few councilmen thought this was a good idea, which I believe is a lot more doing things like this for votes for the upcoming election. But when you look at the lawyer sitting there and everybody sitting there, and you say, where the money going to come from, and the city manager replied, it's going to come from the department's money for salary. Well, he didn't say salary. He said for department's payroll. Okay.
Right.
Departments don't have payrolls. Departments have salaries and benefits.
Okay.
Every salary, all the salary and benefits that are associated with any department is based on the positions and their salary for those positions that was approved by council in the budget. So whatever money and salaries and benefits is based on the number of individuals at the different levels that you approve to be working or hired in that department. You see? So at the end of the day, if council chose to give a pay raise and they did not include it in the budget, what we citizens should have seen and heard is someone brought it up as a resolution, or they brought it up as a discussion. And now you can't bring it up for a resolution because the ordinance for agendas in the charter says that you cannot place an item on the agenda for funding if that item was not placed in the budget. You cannot do that. So in this particular case, the only way they could have done it, they could have brought it up for discussion, and all the citizens would have heard who's saying what and why they want to do this when they didn't put it in the budget. Then the next thing, they would have had to decide where we're going to get the money. Well, you can't take money from the budget to pay for something that was not included in the budget, because then you misappropriate the money because the money wasn't placed in the budget for that purpose.
Right.
And the Uniform Budget Law says the money that's being spent in the budget should be spent specifically for which it was placed in the budget. You see? So they could have said, we're going to do it. Then the next thing they would have had to do was go back and amend the budget.
Right.
Place money into the budget for that purpose. Now, that would have taken more than just discussing it and doing it in 2 weeks. But when you start abusing the taxpayers' money, the only way to do it is the way it's happening now, and that is not following the ordinances, and above all, violating the Open Meeting Act because you're not being transparent.
Right.
You see, now had the mayor not went to the news media and complained about moving all these departments down there to St. Mary's without them knowing, the people who didn't view the meeting on video or the people who didn't attend the meeting would never have known. But even with the mayor doing that, you know, it's still the fact that you all, when you all discuss it, y'all were discussing it behind closed doors rather than having it discussed in open meetings, because it wouldn't have been nothing new to you and nobody else to include the manager, the mayor, and citizens. We all would have known.
Right.
Because I follow meetings, and that's how I'm looking at some of the things that are being done, and I wonder, what is their attorney purpose now to be the lawyer for the citizens and protect our taxpayer dollar to ensure that the documentation going before council is correct, or is to allow things to happen and knowingly know how it violates our ordinance or the laws.
And let me go ahead.
Because if you look, wait, let me say this.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you look at the meeting, when they started asking about wanting to rename a street, her response was, I could give you advice, legal advice, in a closed session. You don't need to go into closed session for something that's violating the Open Meeting Act, first thing. And the second thing is,
right,
you don't go into closed session to discuss something you've already done 3 times previously.
Right, absolutely.
You either vote yes or no. You know, so you want to go in closed session because you don't want people to hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
The Open Meeting Act say you can't do that. So, you know, right now we have too much of city business being done behind closed doors, and it's not following policies, procedures in some cases, and in doing so, it leads to misappropriation or abuse of the taxpayers' money. You know, so we have issues, and I hope citizens are paying attention, because what I said about the Open Meeting Act, you know, as I stated before, you could Google that.
Right, yes.
And it's hard to understand what they could talk about and what they can't. And they continuously make agendas where they talk about the section of the Open Meeting Act they're going to discuss, but that's not what the law says. The law says any item you're going to discuss, you must announce prior to going into the session, and any citizen that is there has the right to question whether it's a closed session item. You see?
Right.
So that's how so much is being discussed behind closed doors. They're violating the law. They're not being transparent. And the city attorney is enabling it to happen instead of getting them to understand what the law says and making sure that they abide by the law.
Right. As for a citizen, right, looking at the council meeting, it's so frustrating, where kind of like how you say, something that should pass the common sense test, right? They seem to have muck it up. And this is a perfect example, right? When listening to the council meeting, after that company gives its presentation on what they're going to do to Gates Boulevard and the master plan for Gates Boulevard, why does council seem like they're getting mad at the presenter? Instead of talking to the city manager, specifically ask them, city manager, who authorized this? When was this authorized? Who gave you the the authority to do all this? Where do we get the money from to do all this? Why it seems like something that I would say is a common sense question that the council should talk to the city manager is because that's who they're over, that they argue with the doggone presenter. Can you speak on that, please?
Well, that in itself comes to council members understanding that they are the voice of the people and they represent the people, and that their questions and their comments should be in a fashion that they would expect the citizens to want them to say or do, or the stance they take. But the reason this happened at the council meeting, because our council meetings are never done in a fashion that's depicted by the rules and what we adopted. We adopted Robert Rules of Order as a basis for conducting meetings, and our meetings are not conducted. It's conducted like it's a little neighborhood meeting, and
Right.
it's on and on. And the mayor makes a comment frequently saying, "Oh, city attorney, you are my parliamentarian." The city attorney is not his parliamentary.
Right,
The
yeah.
city attorney is the
City attorney, right.
and it's your meeting that you presiding over. You should know the rules. You should know when to ask for a vote, when to take the different secondary vote. You should know that. After 4 years, you still want to say what you want to say instead of conduct the meetings. So when your meetings are not conducted in an orderly fashion, you start hearing a bunch of jargon that is not needed. Just like reading the opening to the meeting, is written, but the mayor refused to read it. He wants to talk and refer to it, which end up being longer. And some of the things that we do, it shows that no one is really thinking about how we do it. Because you brought up the meetings, yes, the meetings are totally out of character and sort of embarrassing for those people who know how it
Exactly.
should. If they knew how it should be conducted, then they will know that that's not the way it should be, and it's not orderly. And that's why a lot of things come up where there's a lot of chaos or discussion or people making remarks, but they have not been recognized. So, in order to do that, the citizens have to understand you elected those people to represent you. However, you should be understanding and finding out. If you didn't know, just paying attention to what is being put out and what is being given out there so you could be informed, so that you understand that is that the representation you want? You're talking about meetings. You could go to the Code of Ordinance and you read about what it says in meetings, and it's very specific. It says council meetings will be conducted every other Tuesday, one at 8:30 and the other at 5:30, rotating from 8:30 to 5:30. It also states that if a meeting falls on a holiday, then it will be rescheduled to the next day that is not a holiday.
Right.
It also states that the council can reschedule a meeting if there's something that, where you won't have a quota, they go into conference or conflict with something. So, you should conduct it at the earliest convenience for doing the business. But this council always rescheduling meetings are changing times just because it's convenient for them.
Right.
But that's violating the ordinance. And see, council does not have the authority to do anything that violates the ordinance. And for the city secretary and the city attorney to sit there and not say nothing is why they continue to do it. just like conduct a meeting at 9:30. If they don't want to do an 8:30 meeting no more, all they have to do is go back and amend the ordinance and say that it will be every other Tuesday at 9:30 and 5:30.
Right.
But you can't continue to do meetings at 9:30 because you want to. No, you can't use COVID no more. You can't use the pandemic no more.
Absolutely.
So if you can't use COVID and the pandemic, the ordinance says your meeting is at 8:30. That's how bad this council has gotten.
Oh yeah.
Whereby they're not following any ordinances, and because they don't make sure that they prepare to discuss or vote on items that come before them, the staff is presenting them anything and giving them the response they want them to hear. Like when the manager says, "This is not nothing. It's just a plan. It's just a plan." No. Once you do a design, it's no longer a plan.
Yeah.
The plan was when you talked about it, okay?
Right.
But when you're paying $700 and some thousand to do it, it's no longer, it's just a plan.
Yeah, they talking to different people about it. The officers asking them where they want their offices at, and yeah.
Yeah, you see, so it was a lot going on. And contrary to popular belief, some council members were aware of it. But that's when they don't understand. When you see or you know that they are violating the ordinance, all you have to do is say, "We can't do it." And it's might say, "Well, why?" Because it violates the ordinance. Council don't have the authority to violate ordinances. They don't have that authority. In fact, they are violating it, and they're committing a misdemeanor because you're violating the ordinance and you're caught. But the thing is, you sit there and you become part of it, or if you know better, you don't say nothing because you want to go along because everybody wants to support everybody.
Right.
So they got support of one another, but citizens don't have representation. And because you violating and not being transparent, you spending a lot of money inappropriately, and in some cases, you abusing it, and in some cases, you're giving people contracts.
Right.
So, when you put together all of this, it's not like somebody just making an honest mistake or somebody just didn't know. No, this is getting to the corruption level when so many people are involved and you have all these checks and balances. But yet now, this is happening and it's costing taxpayers money.
Right. And another question I want to ask, right? Where does the disconnect from council and staff or the changes of things come from, right? We understood that we had a downtown plan where the police department were upgrades to the police department, the court system. There was at least $2.5 million were a part of being this downtown plan. Now, I understand that Motiva has purchased some of the areas from downtown. From my knowledge, right, this doesn't have anything to do with the police and the fire department, right? Because I'm assuming that regardless of whatever type of plan it is, right, the purpose of the downtown plan is to bring traffic downtown, right? Where my question is, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was about to say, where does the disconnect come from? We have a specific plan that we paid money to renovate the police and courthouse to change it to where nobody knows except a handful of people to change it. Well, we're moving those departments all the way over to the Gates project, Gates Master Plan, Gates Boulevard.
Well, the disconnect, David, is simply council approving things and then the city and the staff, the staff and managers should be executing it. But because they don't do nothing, the council doesn't come back and hold them accountable and ensure that, no, you're not going to sit on it, you're going to do it.
Right.
If you do it, then we're going to get somebody to do it, but we didn't approve this for you to sit around and not do it, or you try to do it the way you want or how you want. You know, we've already directed you to what we do. The downtown plan, you hear the mayor talk about the downtown plan. You talk about the city man talk about the downtown plan. Tell them, give me the downtown plan right now, and you look at it, you tell me what it is.
Right.
They wouldn't have no clue, because they just throw that word out there to get people to believe that this is what we need to do, and this is with the plan. No, it ain't with the plan, because if you take a look at the plan that we paid thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars for, if you look at that plan, right, you won't see none of that. And if you take a look at that plan that we had, you will find that what's happening down there is not in conjunction with that plan.
Right.
So basically, because we paid all this money to do this plan, and they went around, and you remember that when this Creed Nichols going around interviewing the different communities, getting their feedback on what they would like and all this.
Right, yeah.
Came up with this plan they draw. But if you look at the plan, it wasn't realistic, okay?
Right.
I know some citizens are always saying, you know, we need to do something downtown. We need to bring downtown back and all this. But what I think citizens need to understand is cities that renovate or bring their downtowns back, normally the downtown is actually located towards center of city, okay? That's the first thing. The second thing is that they have people that they go out and seek to come and invest and do things downtown where they provide incentives, because that's all they could do. So if you understand the downtown, because of its location right now, with the population and the businesses of the city, the downtown can be developed into a business district. And I give you an example of what I'm talking about, David.
Yeah.
When the city of Houston started expanding out into the subdivisions, building all these subdivisions out away from downtown, all these different subdivisions started coming up. All the stores downtown, they started closing, and they started building strips in these different communities, okay?
Right, yeah.
So downtown Houston was actually abandoned. I mean, that was nothing down there for a period of time. But that's when they got with developers and stuff, and they started bringing back businesses. Halliburton, all these businesses started buying these buildings, right?
Right.
And they started making them their corporate headquarters. And that's what brought downtown Houston back to life. It's a business district.
Yeah.
It's a business district, you see. So you have to take a look at what you can actually get going in an area that you want to develop and understand what type of traffic is going to exist. Because downtown Houston, if you go down there, you're going to find out it's businesses and then a lot of eating places to accommodate the traffic that's down there. And then Houston went a step farther. They built Minute Maid Park down there.
Right.
You see? To bring people to the downtown area. They built that big convention center to bring people downtown.
George R. Brown, something like that, yeah.
That's right. So when they built that convention center and they built that ballpark, all of the hotels started popping up. and then you needed places that people eat. So that's how the businesses come down. So they developed downtown Houston, but downtown Houston is not a place where people go and shop. It's mostly a business district.
Right. Yeah.
You see, so in order to develop downtown, you got to first know what do we want the downtown to be,
Right.
and what can we actually bring there that's going to be successful. What can we do down there that the people we talk to is going to say, yeah, you know.
Right.
But
right.
see, you got people on council trying to talk to people to try to get people to come and do things mainly for their own benefits. I'm going to just say it, mainly for their own benefit, because if you go back to things happen here in the city, Councilman Frank and Marty and them, they wanted to sell property on Pleasure Island. They said they had this developer that's going to put some $1 million property with waterfall.
Yeah.
Yeah, all this great idea, right? But the city got to sell the property first.
Yeah.
Put the property up for sale. But guess what? Haven't heard nothing else about it. Developers ain't saying nothing about it. The reason being, these people come, they be talking, and then, you got council people or people making them promises what they're going to do for them. But when they find out, no, you can't do that. The law don't allow you to do it, and if you did it, it would be one of them obvious type deal where, somebody going to go somewhere that required them to be restricted when they could come out and leave, and if you know what I mean.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So that's it. So in order for downtown to move, you got to know what you want. And that plan has been shot. I mean, the plan was shot when Mativa started buying buildings, okay?
Right. Even though the plan...
You shot it then, so what you do is you go back to the drawing board and you say, okay, if Motiva going to do this, we need to get people to come down and try to get people to do this or do that. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Now what would make
somebody...
Now, what exactly would make the downtown... Now, I understand that. What would make a council, a city's motivation to move the court system, police, and fire from downtown, right? Some people have said to be renovated for 10, 20, 30 years down the line. Well, we see we can't do anything to be future progressive like that because, heck, we can't even get a downtown plan right for the next 5 years. So, and also if the city is not growing at that rate, why do we need to grow the police department like it's growing more in the city? But I don't want to get convoluted and stuff. Basic question, what's in the downtown would make us want to move those properties away from downtown if we want to try to do something for downtown?
Well, I could tell you right now, even if I wanted to develop downtown with the police and fire, I would first have to take a look at, properties available to the city downtown, that's a own property, because just as we're talking about developing downtown, we talking about developing downtown, but we have a police department that was built and established when you had probably about 10, 12 policemen on force here in the city, and also with the fire departments, okay? But the city has grown, and with the city grown, you've gotten all these numbers of law enforcement you have now. So they outgrown their office downtown. They've outgrown that. I would say probably about 20 years ago, they should have renovated. We should have new police department. We should have a new fire department. Or we should have a renovated fire department and a renovated police department to accommodate the size of those two departments now, as opposed to having these departments still operating in a department that had outgrown itself 20 years ago. But now, is it moving into St. Mary's? I'm not going to say moving to St. Mary's, but you have to have a plan. And in order to renovate and get them offices to accommodate the size of these departments, then that should be one. Do we have prospective property that we own, or can we purchase property in order to do this?
Right.
And that's what you're talking about, having a plan. You see what I'm saying? But, just the idea of not looking at those things and just say, well, this property is free up here, we're going to move them over there. Well, when you're doing that, then you got to have some rationale on why you're moving it over there. Just because the land is what have you done to look at either we have this portion of land and we could purchase this. Let's go talk to the owners and see can we buy this. And then if we do that, then we could rebuild, or we could move one of them out of there or two of them out of there, let one of them have all of that area, right?
Right, yes.
And then build the other two or something. But, until you take that approach to look at doing it down here, before you say move it, you got to ensure that cost effectively is better to us to move them, because to purchase property is going to cost this, to build. And it's taxpayers' money. So you should always try to use the money wisely, and at the same time not upset citizens or do things citizens don't approve of or don't agree with. Sometimes citizens may not accept what the decision is, but that's because a lot of time is being personal as opposed to being professional, thinking about the best thing for the citizens' overall benefit, not just a group, but everybody.
Right.
But, like you said, there was talk about renovating, but it never would talk about moving them out there. So therefore, it was pretty shocking to find that you done paid money for somebody to design something, but you never discussed it.
Right. And also,
and like I said, don't believe somebody didn't know. It was some council member, and they were privy to it, okay?
Right.
So I think maybe because things didn't go that way or something like that, then they took it upon themselves to make a big fracas about it. But like you said, there should be a plan for those departments. And if you're not going to keep them where they are, then you must be able to present to the citizens, right, why we can't keep them downtown.
Right.
Why we need to move them. You gotta lay it down. You gotta show the citizens. You just don't come up with these wild ideas, and then you spend $100,000. Then you talk about, well, it's just a plan. No, it ain't no plan no more.
Right. And also, I just want to interject on this point. If that was the case, if the police department needed to be moved or needs to be upgraded, that should have been identified during the downtown plan, right? Before they spent $2.5 million on whatever type of renovations they done. Because we just lost $2.5 million by renovating that police and municipal court, now only to find out we're going to move it a few years later. And if that was the case, they should have had a public meeting where they should have discussed this in front of the citizens so the citizens can ask questions on, hey, what's going on, why this building needs to be remodeled, okay, what data do you have for it? Do we have 10 officers back then or 20 officers right now? Is there any other way we can do some cheaper upgrades to the police department right now? And if you have more people on patrol, what exactly is the actual issue that we need to upgrade this building? And instead of doing it how we did, going behind the lines, wasting money on the rent of 2.5 on renovations, to only figure out now that something's been going on behind the scenes where they now want to move it to the Gates property. Go ahead.
Well, David, it goes back to being transparent and making sure citizens understand what you want to do and how you're going to do it. And like you said, if they had presented a plan to renovate them where they are, and you spend money, then you don't spend money and then change your mind like that because it's not your money.
Right.
And that's what I'm talking about. Misappropriation and abuse of taxpayers' money. You wouldn't do it if it was their money. And I would say some of the decisions that I see happening here, we misappropriate millions of dollars. Not hundreds.
Yes.
It's millions of dollars. If someone come in and start looking at how much money have been spent that doesn't have proper documentation for that, and it has not went through the process, then you're going to find out this is going to continue. They tell you there's a plan, but you're doing what you want to do, and you're not following the plan. And plans are always a plan, and you can always change plans. Okay, you update them. But when you're doing it transparent. You're discussing this. Someone is coming before the council. They presented it. So now the council understands, hey, maybe we want to do this. And citizens understand. If council got any questions, they're going to ask them. If citizens got any questions, they have an opportunity to ask. But when you stop conducting meetings in the open and everything you're doing is in offices or behind closed doors, that's where you start having a lot of abuse of money and misappropriation of money, and that's something that is getting pretty bad here, because when you hear someone says that it's just a plan and you spent $700,000 on it, I don't think that you just take that lightly. When you start talking about the money that was placed on the buildings before, and you decide now we move them, before you say that we're going to just waste the money that we put in this, then you have to come before citizens. You have to show citizens, yes, we spent this money. However, in the long run, we can spend this money, and it would be better off because this is not going to do in the next 5 years.
Yeah, 2.5 is a lot of money.
Yeah, so basically, you have to discuss things. That's what open meeting is for. Because when you discuss in open meeting, you'll find out some of the decisions being made won't be made. They're not going to make it. They're not going to say. That's why they don't want to talk in the open, because they know citizens will not abide by it. They're just like these honorary streets,
Right.
And I have nothing against that. But when you take a look at it, I think we only have like 4 in the city, and this council have done 3, and 2 of them coming from one council member who wants to do another one. And if you do that, what right do you have to tell another citizen who come before you and make a request for someone who has contributed to this community? Right. And been an outstanding citizen and a contributor? How can you say no? So what we gonna have? A bunch of streets with 2 signs on them?
Yeah.
Now we know what the street actually is, but you got visitors coming through your city and they look at the sign. Well, it's supposed to be this street, but they got this up there.
Yeah, the GPS say one thing, but the road say something else.
Yeah, so you just get to whereby you got people on council who believe that anything they want to do, if they agree or if they get the majority, then it's okay. And that's not the case. Then you have the city manager and the city attorney and staff thinking that, all we got to do is bring it to them because they don't know, and it's going to be okay. So, the city is not being run in accordance to our charter, our city and our ordinance and codes and stuff, because if it was, we will know all these things. We'll know why they are doing things. And you take a look at the council in the last year and a half, well, the last 2 years, I'll say, you know, you rarely see someone come before council doing presentations on prospective projects that they will bring to our city.
Right.
And what they would like the city to do to assist them. You don't see that anymore, but you still hear them talking about projects.
Right.
So
yes,
where's
yes.
the talk? You see?
Exactly.
And that's why when citizens hear about these things, citizens become upset because it's no longer in the stage where you could go and talk about what I don't think is in the best interest as a citizen, or you can't go get other citizens to go with you and let council know how y'all feel about it because you don't know.
Right.
Because when they bring it before the council in the open, it's normally in the form of a resolution, and when they read the resolution, you say, "Are there any questions?" Nobody have any questions, so they
Right,
vote.
yeah.
So citizens think, "Oh, nobody had any questions. Oh, they always in favor of it." So citizens automatically think, "Well, it's right."
Right,
Well,
exactly. Just like with this, no questions on the moving into the Gates property. Nobody asked a question.
no, because they had already discussed all of this behind closed doors,
Exactly.
which is a fact against the Open Meeting Act. Okay,
Exactly.
it's definitely not an item that's supposed to be touched, discussed behind closed doors.
Now,
But as long as they operate in the fund they have, we're going to continue to have the misappropriation abuse, and we're going to continue to find out things and decisions being made that we had no clue. We never had a chance to comment on those items, and that's why you have open meeting acts. Open meetings. You give open meetings for transparency, and also give citizens the opportunity to comment before you vote.
right.
And they're taking all that away.
Oh yeah. Now, as a citizen, right? What can we do? I mean, people. I know there's a lot of people like me are upset at the lies, the hiding, the misappropriation, the abuse. Every time you feel like we move in different properties everywhere, we have the health department going to be on 9th Avenue up there. We're going to have the police and fire go be on Gates. We're going to have City Hall go be over here on the downtown. What can a citizen do to express their concerns and, talk to somebody or complain about it or something? What can we do?
Well, the thing about it is, like I said, the only thing that you could say is the violation of the Open Media Act and no transparency and not having the opportunity to comment, okay? And it's big. It is really huge because a lot of the things that they decide as a council, they can approve it, and it's nothing wrong if they decide a majority that this is what they feel is best for the citizens in the city. That's why we elected them. So if they approve it, it's not wrong. But what's wrong is if they are talking about all this, coming to a consensus and not letting citizens hear those discussions, and citizens given the opportunity to speak before they vote, then that's the problem. And that's why they violate that Open Meeting Act, because the Open Meeting Act is actually the law. It's not a code or a policy. It's law. It's state law that forces government to be transparent. And like I said, their way of doing it is getting around the Open Meeting Act. So that's something that I'm looking forward to addressing in the near future. But it will be with someone that's going to be outside law enforcement here in the city of Port Arthur, because we cannot continue to have our city ran behind closed doors or in offices. And we
Absolutely.
can't have people spending hundreds of thousands of dollars and saying, well, it's just a plan, or,
Right.
if y'all don't want it, you can. No, you done spent this money. Y'all need to find out how to make things work, because you spent all this money. How did you get to spend all this money? You know what? Somebody needs to start being held accountable.
Right.
Okay,
Absolutely.
somebody held accountable. And like I said, I'm going to be looking into some of these things in the near future, and the reason being, as a citizen, and I know what ordinances and what the charter and what the law said, and I know that we're supposed to be transparent. When you have the mayor put on the agenda to nobody come to do a presentation before that council unless he, the
Right.
manager, or council member invite you,
Yes.
that is control. That is completely unbelievable. You're now telling people that you don't get a chance to come before us unless we invite you. You didn't say that when you were running for office.
Right. Exactly.
And now that this council changed it, that ordinance has been in effect probably since the charter was created, in order to give citizens the opportunity to come and do presentation before council.
Right.
As a councilman, I sat through many, I sat through some that, I like, oh man, I sure hope this 20 minutes passed. But the fact of the matter is,
Yeah.
the person had the right to do the presentation, and I had to sit there and listen.
Right. Absolutely. Whether you liked it
But
or not.
there you go. But for some reason, the mayor requested that they approve it, and they would have had no questions.
Right.
And then if you look at that time, Jones made a comment to the city attorney, is it legal? It shouldn't be whether it's legal. You sit there and you think that somebody can't come before you unless you invite them, or the mayor or the manager invite them. If you need somebody to tell you that that's wrong, you
Right.
don't need to be up there.
And
That.
Mhm.
But see, citizens have to pay attention to our things. And what you're discussing on the podcast now, that's going to be an election where all the seats for the mayors are going to be coming up.
Right.
But any council member running, people need to ask them about all these things that we're discussing tonight.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, right? Because I was going to go on my third installment of this, giving some citizens some actual tangible things that they can do right. Now this has been so much of a problem that we have to go above and beyond just calling a council member and giving them a second and third chance, where we have to go through to a legal process, right, to actually address the laws that they
You
are
got to get
violating.
out. You're going to have to get out of this city and get someone who's
Right.
going to come in and look at our ordinance, look at what you say they're doing, look at what they're actually doing with proof of it. And when that's done, you're going to find out there's going to be some violations identified.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
cases, people need to be held accountable, okay?
Yeah.
But what citizens need to understand is you cannot continue to elect people because of popularity or who someone trying to tell you to elect. When if you listen to people who know them, they tell you things about them. Because now you have people who are not interested in being your voice. We still have problems with trash and garbage.
Right. Exactly. And
We still have money, millions, probably right now, probably about $20 million. $20 million for street repair. That
right.
we just have because they're not fixing. You know, they got the city crew going and resurfacing. They're just putting asphalt over the street, which is not going to last, okay?
Right.
Those streets are going to fall within 6-8 months, okay? Because they're just putting asphalt on them. Because we paid another company, I think in 2018, hundreds of thousands of dollars to do a study to identify which streets needed to be reconstructed.
Yeah, I remember that. Yes.
Or
Yes.
resurfaced. And some of the streets that were identified to be reconstructed, they're sending the city crews and they repaving them.
Right.
Well, if we're not gonna follow what was identified and paid all this money, what was the purpose? See, that's why council is not following through to ensure that when we pay things, that is actually was worth it, and citizens got their money from it. You see,
yeah.
They brought this company in, and all of a sudden, you know, we're not going by it. You know, and why are they just asphalt a lot of streets? Oh, they done it for one reason. They want to come back and say, oh, we got a lot of streets fixed.
Yeah, to make it look like they're doing something.
But yet now, you got money that you actually supposed to have contractors coming in because the city crews can't do the reconstruction right. You see?
Yeah.
So right now, what you should see and should have been seeing for the past 3 years, not just city employees fixing streets, but you should have seen contractors, and the contractors are supposed to do the streets that require reconstruction, so that when they're done right. That's why you have so much of this money unspent.
Yeah.
But you know what? No council member is trying to hold nobody accountable that this money just stacked there and you're not doing nothing with it. Or no one is saying, why are we just putting asphalt on some of these streets when we have to go back and reconstruct them? Why aren't we doing it right the first time? Why are we wasting money and material? You know, somebody has to say, why are we raising the price or the fee? Why are we raising the fee for the trash,
waste, sewer,
and water,
right,
water fees for garbage and stuff? But we can't pick it up on time.
Right, and we're doing it. Yeah,
that's what the council people are supposed to be saying, because that's what we're saying.
Right, and we're doing.
And you see,
go ahead.
They could change it. Let me tell you, that council can tell the city manager tomorrow, look, we want this fixed and want it fixed now. If you got to buy a truck, you got to hire people, whatever it takes, we want it fixed and want it fixed now.
And exactly, because this is a high level of incompetency, right? Because all of these problems are being brought on the citizens, right? You know, just take a look at it. We can't pick up garbage and trash, but yet we spending $2.5 million on wasted renovation. We can't get things done within the city. We raising up the water on us, but we also get into some crap with the downtown and the health department building where we can't move there, and we're paying money for rent to Motiva. All of this crap doesn't make any sense. We are doing things behind backwards.
Well, you know, you go so far as council having staff to bring them things, and they say, okay, but they're not representing us. You can't pick our garbage up on time. So what you decide? You decide that not only will Monday be a holiday after Christmas, but you're going to give Tuesday as a holiday also, because the employees voted to make Tuesday the floating holiday. As the manager, that should have never became an issue where they had the opportunity to vote on it, because he ought to be concerned with getting this holiday trash, garbage up in a timely manner. Therefore, letting the employees know, hey, y'all already have Monday off for a holiday. You're going to have to pick another day for your flow because we're going to have to get this garbage and trash collected.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So the council approves that request. So now the work is going to be off Monday and Tuesday, which means they don't start picking the garbage up until Wednesday.
Right.
Which means they're going to be picking up garbage maybe Saturday and Sunday to get everybody that week.
Right, yes.
Well, they're going to pay the people for Saturday and Sunday overtime.
Right, because you're getting Monday and
wasting our money, wasting taxpayers' dollars.
Right. Yeah, and then you
see,
right, then you have this bonus, this $300 bonus. But then again, if you had the money for that, why are you raising all rates in the water, the sewage and stuff, right? Because I think it's the second raise they done within
they just got a raise. Hey, they just got a raise in October.
Yeah, the raise is fine, but the bonus, this bonus.
Yeah, but see, I'm gonna tell you now, the bonus. If employee was getting the job done and they felt the employees was deserving of it, as a council member, I wouldn't have had a problem. But the problem I would have is if you didn't talk about it when we made this budget out.
There you go. Yes, sir.
And all of the citizens know we were going to do it, right?
Right.
We're not going to do it now.
And
we're not going to do it now because we didn't put money in the budget. And citizens didn't know that we had talked about this. And citizens don't know why we decided to do it. Why did we give that bonus?
Right, and that's the purpose of a budget, to make sure the money is in order, right? So that's probably the most proper outline that you can have is your money. And I need you to kind of go over that, how important that budget is, just like how we said before, right? A budget can tell you how your city is supposed to operate. And that's so important because it all boils down to the money. Can you speak on that, sir?
That's one thing that I've been following since I left council, and I cannot believe how much money is being spent that was not implemented in the budget because it's just taking money. Just like the bonus, when the city manager tells the council the money is going to come from the department payroll.
Right.
Somebody on council should have said, we can't do that.
Right.
We have to either amend our budget or we have to find it. But we can't do that because the money we got in salaries and benefits is for the positions we approve in this budget.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
You see, somebody has to be able to say that and protect our money and our interests as to say. But see, nobody's going to say nothing because nobody wants to piss citizens off, and people that planning on running again, they figure about doing all this for city employees, they're going to get all the city employees to vote for them because that's what they're going to be telling.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to tell us. So, you're doing things now to please employees that's not in the best interest of our city and these same employees because they're citizens and they're part of our city. You could do things, but there's a way you're supposed to do things. But that budget, right now, I have no confidence that we are nowhere near following the budget law and ensuring it. See, because our ordinance says, one of the ordinance says, you cannot place an item on the agenda for funding if that item had not been included in your budget and that's funding identified. So in other words, I can't put on the agenda, hey, I request that we fund the employees getting a bonus. I can't put it on there and request approval for funding because a bonus was not included in the budget. You see, that's how it works with budgeting. It was not included. Now, I could bring it for discussion in which now everybody got something to say. We're going to hear what everybody got to say. We're going to know who's pushing this, okay?
Yeah.
See, because the bonus was not nothing that the council deemed necessary. This is not nothing that I don't think the city manager even know. And in fact, he should have been the one that opposed it, okay? Because he should know that it violates the budget law. Right. And if he don't know, his finance director should have been able to. And if she didn't know, the city attorney is supposed to say no.
Yeah.
But that should never have been approved in that fashion. You know, and that's the thing. If you want to do this, you have to let citizens know, one, why are we doing it?
Absolutely.
Why are we giving this bonus? Why are you? Because not one of those council members is going to pay for that bonus.
Right.
And that's a large sum of money, to tell you the truth.
Right.
So why would council approve this, knowing that they didn't include a bonus in their budget? And if they know nothing, now they ought to know that if it's not in the budget, we shouldn't be spending money.
Right.
But see, that's where your city attorney, your city manager, and are in cahoots with allowing council to do that. And you have to understand, some council members have this idea that because we council, if the majority of us vote in favor of it, then it's legal and we could do it.
Right.
But that's what the manager and the city attorney is for, to say, no, you have an ordinance that says you can't. Now, when they say that, the council can say, I don't care what the ordinance say, we're going to do it anyway. Guess what? Now, they know that's wrong. So if the manager and the attorney explain to council why they can't do something, they're not going to do it. I don't care. They're not going to do it. But right now, they just going along and stuff. And for the raise, I truly believe that the raise was in order because they done it during the budget, and the cost of living going up anyway every year. So, you know, I'm never against raises because cost of living goes up. So I'm in favor of employees getting raises. You know, I think it's the right thing to do. But now bonuses, if I'm going to give a bonus, when we talk about what we're going to put in this budget, then we need to tell citizens we're going to put a bonus in there now. Because citizens got to say it's their money too. So anyone who want to talk about it got a chance to come up here and talk about it. But that's when we're doing the budget.
Right, exactly.
But when you got certain people decide they're going to do this, it's hard for someone to convince me that this bonus is really not for citizens, for employees. It's really something to get employees to feel they the one gave them more money. Remember me, okay? You see, this is all campaign stuff. Because other than that, it should never flew. The city manager, that's his budget to manage the city's budget. It's his duty, his duty to manage that budget. It's his duty to manage that budget. So evidently, he should have known.
Right.
They didn't give you for a bonus. So if they want to give the employees a budget, you have to now go back and tell them, y'all need to amend the budget and put money in here so I can do that.
Right.
That's how.
And also it shows that, right, if you're going by the budget, right, that's your financial guide on if you should raise rates on citizens or not, right? It's completely out of order. You raising rates on citizens on one end, but you're giving a bonus to the employees on the other end, because a bonus, that's not like a raise where it's just like a one-time gift or something like that. If you have money to give bonuses, you should be doing something to try to lower these citizens' rates on we paying for water, waste, and all these other city services. You shouldn't be raising that if you have money for a bonus. Go ahead.
Well, I talked to a couple of council members when they first mentioned that rate and tried to get them to get the data and stuff to show them where they shouldn't approve that rate unless the staff and manager came back with some information for them. Is the rate that you charge citizens is supposed to be enough that you could pay for the cost to provide that service. In other words, you can't charge the citizens a fee so that you can make enough revenue, right?
Right.
To provide the service plus start accumulating money, okay?
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be a revenue-making deal. It's supposed to be where you charge to pay for the service. That's why it's called an enterprise fund. The next part of that is when you talk about charging me more money for my water, what I told the council member, you need to first have the city manager and staff provide you with what is the percentage of water loss, okay?
Right.
Because the state of Texas says the acceptable rate is 5%. 5%. So I know that the city has larger than 5%. I know that. So the first thing is you tell them, I want to know. Because if you are more than 5%, if you're not meeting what the state says is acceptable, if you exceed it, I want to know now, what is your plan to correct this?
Right.
What is your plan to correct this? Because if you correct this, then you don't have to charge me as much as you want to charge me now. You see?
Right.
So before I would have voted and approved a raise, I would have had to have all of the data that let me know that even if you corrected this, that you still had to raise the rate. Okay? And like I explained to the two councilmen, it doesn't matter because they hadn't had previous raise, because if you're getting enough money to pay your service, then you don't need to raise the rate. But if you got all these main lines breaking all over this city every time you turn around,
right,
and you got all this water going in the ground, you're losing more than 5%. If you're losing more than 5%, then you're buying more water from the LNVA. You're buying more chemicals to treat this water. So you treating all this water and spending all this money buying more water, more chemicals, but the water going in the ground, but you want me to pay for it because you're saying that's what it costs you to give me water. No, it's not. So I try to explain that to them, but evidently they let the manager and their staff BS their way out and not answer those questions or not produce this information. But, because of the rate we had raised the last time, you're not replacing any water lines.
Right.
You're constantly losing water. You're not doing nothing to stop this. So how can you say that's what it costs for you to provide the amount of water we need? It's not the case. But that's what council people are supposed to do. They're not supposed to listen to staff come up to give their version of why. You're supposed to have the common sense approach. And if you put yourself in the citizen's shoes and you've been around, you should understand a little bit more. Well, you could ask these questions and you could tell them, I don't want to vote until you get me this information. And you can hold up the vote. Mm-hmm. Because if you tell them, I'm not going to vote until you tell me this information and show me that it needs to be raised this much, I'm not voting. Now, all council members, they're gonna go along with you because you know what? They know it makes sense. If they didn't know before, now they know that the state have an acceptable level of water loss. Okay? So that means if you're losing 20% or 15, 20% of the water that you're treating, why are you trying to charge a fee to cover that? That's why the state established the acceptable level of water laws because they don't want cities not fixing their pipes and stuff and just charge the people the money.
Exactly. And let me tell you the truth, sir. Man, it sounds like the city of Port Arthur is being ran like a real bad Ponzi scheme because we paying all of this money to go ahead and have certain plans, have these surveys, have different things to look at, but we can never execute. We can never execute a certain plan, and it's like we just kicking the can down the road, hopefully that the roof doesn't cave in on the city.
Well, the thing about it is, you have the council not holding the manager and staff accountable, and you got incompetency within the staff of executing what they bring it to council for approval, council approval, but then nothing happens, okay? Or the money gets spent, and then when you bring it up, well, we don't know what happened to the money. You know, like I go back to 2012
right.
when
we
paid $405 for soccer fields. When I got back on council in 2017, and I started saying, where's this money? You know, I was here when we approved it. We don't know.
Yeah.
That's $400-something. We don't know. And see, the thing that I feel so strongly about understanding the Open Meeting Act and making sure they stop talking in closed doors or in offices and making decisions and wasting money, because if you can continue down this road, you will continue to have money being spent, but it's not being reflected in how your city look.
Right,
okay, because what a lot of people may realize, this city gets a hell of a lot of money. They got cities outside. They will have a person jump off the Rainbow Bridge if they can have the money we get.
Man, we can lose $2.5 million.
They will sacrifice. Hey, they got cities outside will sacrifice one of these citizens to jump off that Rainbow Bridge if they can have the revenue that this city gets. The revenue that we get, this city should look pristine, okay?
Right.
It should be, we should have a clean, nice streets, nice building. We should have a beautiful city for the money we get. But if we continue to spend the $2.5 million and waste it, or we continue to spend the $700-something and say, well, it's just a plan, and we continue to set on money for streets, you know, when people are steady putting claims in on the city, they don't talk about the claims they pay for people busting rims and tires who fill the farm out and get reimbursed. So that's why the city looks the way it looks, because they're not using the money that they budget every year to do what they say they're going to do. Just like capital improvement. You put money in the capital improvement program for projects for that particular year. But at the end of the year, you got most of the stuff that you put money in there you ain't done nothing with.
Right. And also...
it keeps piling up. It keeps piling up, and then you end up... And that's how you get to tell somebody, well, you know, if council don't approve it, it's just a plan. That's why you get to lose $700,000, because nobody is aware that we should be here. Who's responsible for this? Who is responsible for saying this $700,000 don't have to be part of what we're going to finish this? Who's saying this?
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Who said we spent $2.5 million? If we supposed to be renovate, who says, well, we changed our mind, so we got the power, we're gonna move them over there? Who said don't worry about the money spent?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so that's how you end up with all of this money coming in, but your city look the way you look.
Right.
See, and it all starts with citizens understanding. When you got a council that says, we got to invite you to do a presentation before us, everyone that votes needs to be recalled.
Right, absolutely.
That person saying, I got to invite you to come and present something to this council that you're concerned with, or may be concerned with other citizens. you have lost focus on what your duties and responsibilities towards citizens. You don't need to be on council. Citizens has to understand, you don't allow council people to change ordinance to prevent you from going before them.
Exactly.
They have totally lost focus on what their purpose are.
Right, and what the Meeting Act is. Hey, and I also want to say I never forget something that Stephen Moses said when he was on the when he was on council. He was like, the legal department find money. How can you find money? So that's also the kind of go what you were saying about we doing all of these crazy practices on council, right? And I just shared on my Facebook, I think I tagged you in it right just now, that the city of Pearland, Texas just voted to fire the city manager because he made a blunder. He made a blunder on the budget, right? He overestimated the budget where the city council had passed the budget that was larger than what they was expecting. I think they had miscalculated some property tax. So just on that alone, they fired the city manager. Here, we are violating so many stuff that this is actually criminal. Go ahead.
Well, that's just like if you look at their meetings, you'll probably see a mayor that could conduct a meeting without having people to have to tell him what to do.
Right.
Okay? You'll probably, everything that they doing, you're probably going to hear them discuss it. You're going to know who brought it up, who said what, and then you're going to know how they voted, okay? And any questions, you're going to know what's happening before it happens because that's the way it's supposed to be done, okay?
Right.
Those are cities. See, that's how it's written. You're running a city the way you're supposed to govern it. See, but right now you got people in there that think, one, any decision we make is right.
Right, as long as the council approves it, it's right.
Yeah. The other thing, as I stated before, is they don't want to talk about it in the open because they don't want you to hear what they had to say.
Exactly, they hiding stuff. Yeah.
Because they know it's wrong, okay?
Yeah, criminal, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they know it's wrong, so they don't want to talk about it up there, And just like your city manager, when whoever approached him about giving that bonus, he should have known right then, I didn't include it in the budget. You all going to have to amend the budget and give me the money. Now, they in turn now got to go before in an open meeting, and they got to discuss giving this raise, why they want to give this raise, and then they got to say, we're going to take the money out of the reserve and put it in the budget.
Mm-hmm.
And all of this is good. That's the way it's supposed to be done. And then guess what? Somebody who understands the budget law and everything and what the state says, they're going to come back and tell them, oh, y'all put money in there for a bonus and you didn't do it when you made the budget? They're going to say, you can't do it. That's illegal because the only time you can amend this budget is if it's dealing with a emergency, dealing with city personnel and citizens' health and safety, okay? So just because you decided now to do it, the budget law says you can't amend that budget because that's not an emergency. And it's not dealing with citizens' health and safety. So that's how you can't do it, okay? You see that? Yeah. And that's what citizens say. It's not that it was a good gesture, but I don't truly believe that was given with the intention of helping employees. It was given with the intention of getting employees to support them.
Right. And then employees will get screwed on the back end of the deal.
Right. and then you have the city manager who didn't voice his opposition based on what he know that he could spend and how money is supposed to be taken out of that budget, because it's his responsibility to manage it. So it's his problem too, because he sat there and was part of it. Then you take the city attorney. When that resolution went to her office, she had to sign off on it before it could come to the council. and she had to sign off it for its legality and ensuring that it doesn't violate ordinances and laws and stuff like that. So guess what? She knew that it wasn't an emergency. She knew that it wasn't included in the budget. She should have not let it be on the agenda because that's her duties and responsibilities. So you see, we got people with duties and responsibilities allowing all this to happen, and what it is resulting in a waste and misappropriation of our tax money. We could use that money for the purpose. Take that money and go buy a trash truck or a garbage truck.
Right, yeah.
That money and hire somebody else.
Yeah.
Okay, take the money and put it on your priorities. The priorities in this city we established is streets and garbage and trash. That's our priority. Those are things that should have been fixed because we established that as a priority in 2018.
Right.
But they're not worried. They wasted $700,000. You could have bought at least a garbage truck with that much money.
Oh yeah.
So, we have people throwing away money and they're not following the correct policies and procedures for managing our budget and our money. Okay? And then what you doing? You're doing it because you're making decisions in offices or behind closed doors.
Mm-hmm.
It never ceases to amaze me. But like I said, I'm going to address those issues outside of city law enforcement for the simple reason that I do understand policies, procedures, and I understand the Open Meeting Act, and I understand transparency, and I understand how the city should be run. I don't think there's any council in the United States that at some point in time may have unknowingly violated the Open Meeting Act and discussed something closed door that it shouldn't have. I'm not going to. But when you start conducting business like that,
right.
That's where your misappropriations, the abuse of money, that's why you see so much money that's being abused or misappropriation. The bonus, misappropriation. You're talking about the good. So, if you want to do things good for people, do it in a manner in which it's supposed to be. Follow policies, procedures. You see? So they would have had to discuss giving a bonus when they talked about giving a raise. But they didn't want to do that because they figured people be going after them.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
so
sir.
They didn't even discuss it. Then all of a sudden I wouldn't be surprised somebody went and told them, we're going to get you a bonus.
Right.
Because that's how a lot of things happening in our city is happening. We have councilmen going around thinking that they make decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And
totally inappropriate. And I don't know, but like I said, I wouldn't say I'm an activist, but I am a person that I do care. I served on council long enough to understand how it should work. And like I said, I do believe that there are some things that can happen unintentionally or unknowing, but there's too much going on now that the city attorney should know better, the city manager should know better, and somebody on council should know. Because without those individuals looking out for our best interests and our tax dollars, we're going to continue to be getting all of this revenue and our city look the way it looks now.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, and on that note, go ahead and kind of wrap this up for time. Just go ahead and give us a like a summary statement from us, brother.
Yeah, well, citizens need to start getting involved and paying attention to council meetings. When when they are talking about projects or things, when people are not discussing it during the meeting,
Right.
that means they probably discussed it already. When they ask for read an item and everybody on council, nobody have questions, most of the time they've discussed it already. So, unless things are discussed in the open and citizens, and the reason that they don't want to discuss it, because they know they have people like myself who actually know what they can and can't do. And, just like when I've done a presentation on violation of the Open Meeting Act and pointed out,
Yes.
they changed the ordinance the next meeting.
Yeah.
The citizens can't come before. So citizens have to understand, and that was the mayor request. So citizens need to understand that individual and everybody who supported and voted for this are telling you, you can't come before them unless we invite you.
Right.
So unless citizens get more involved, David, or if you don't want to get involved, when you have people like David Jones doing podcasts or David Jones putting stuff on his social media page, you don't have to take David Jones' word, or you don't have to believe what David Jones say. But what you should do is take that information, and if it's something that's given to you that support that information, read it for yourself, and then understand what's being done and what's wrong. Sometimes people have a tendency to want to accept what someone write or what someone say, as opposed to, I'll check it out for myself.
Right, fact check.
Because, as long as we could continue to inform citizens and tell citizens where the information is found, then citizens should be able to look at this information, then go look at what they're doing, and they'll know for themselves that's not right. You see?
Mm-hmm.
So all I can say is that hopefully, this next election coming up, there's going to be some changes, because I tell you right now, by the time that is, I hope there'll be some word on someone outside the city looking into what's going on here now.
Oh, yeah.
And be able to identify things that were done so that people understand when it's time to elect, these are things that were going on that cost us money or was waste and misappropriation, not money. These are things that they done that was violating the Open Meetings Act on a consistent basis, or, this is what they were doing wrong to violate the ordinance. This meeting is not their meeting. They don't start it when they want. It's written in the ordinance when you start it and what days you have it and what time you do it.
Right.
You see, they still don't get it. They think they can start the meeting when they want. That's not the case. The ordinance says when the meeting is held. So when citizens start understanding that, then they need to be aware that when this person, or if this person chooses to run again and they come ask you for your vote, do you want this to continue?
Right.
Did that person speak up and speak for you when they were on there, or did they go along to get along? The answer is simple.
Yeah.
If people do their homework and pay attention, like they say, the proof is in the pudding.
Yes,
Sir. and just like citizens have to realize that, someone come in and they investigate this and they say, hey, this is all wrong. These things are there, and people are held accountable. Then you have to take a look. We have a lot of all the seats are coming up, but the mayor seat we just done. But if this shows the mayor has abused his office capacity, or part of this abuse or misappropriation of money, then he should not be given 2 more years. Citizens need to understand. If somebody been doing it for this period of time, you think they're not going to do it for the remainder? But we as citizens have methods in place that we do not have to accept it. Citizens put elected people in office. Citizens can take them out.
Yes, sir.
And that's my parting words. Hey, it's just like your daddy just tell you, when you get thinking you're man, hey, I brought you in this world,
Yeah,
I'll take you out.
Exactly, exactly. And
All
also,
right, Dave.
yes, sir. Hey, appreciate you for another good podcast. And on that note, the citizens always have to remember they are the ones that ultimately can control what's going on, but you really have to know what's going on in order to change what's going on. And
There you go.
on that note, everybody take it easy. Peace.
All right. Appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir.
Head down, push forward through the tough times, 'cause anything worth doing is a tough climb. And I ain't gonna give up. Got too little time, I'ma live up. Head down, push forward through the tough times, 'cause anything worth doing is a tough climb. 'Cause I'ma live life for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I don't lie at night, I be in my feelings. I'ma be fine, need time, and I'll soon be winning. I live life for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I don't lie at night, I be in my feelings. I'ma be fine, need time, and I'll soon be winning. I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon.